going to spend a whole lot of time on this because it's pretty idiotic, especially after African Americans went out in the primaries and voted for who they wanted to vote for, and then Diddy's going to jump in talking about he may hold the black vote hostage. Really? Okay. You better hope we don't hold you hostage. You know, not literally but figuratively. Not literally but figuratively. Okay. Dr. Christina Greer wrote a very, very good piece for thegrio.com. Maybe Diddy can afford not to vote for Biden. Black voters cannot. Maybe Diddy can afford not to vote for Biden. Black voters cannot, because Diddy's almost a billionaire. Okay, Diddy's almost a billionaire. So there's a lot of black billionaire nonsense talk. Because when Roland Martin did a very good deconstruction of this. I put that in my email newsletter that went out a couple of days ago. And also there was a fund that was announced this week that Diddy was launching, and let's see, Shop Black has an article about that. I'll try to pull that up. We may talk a little bit about that. But in the statement that Diddy made, I find it interesting that he did not talk about any of Donald Trump's destructive policies. Like, for instance, Donald Trump mishandling the global this coronavirus pandemic that's cost about 67,000 people their lives, and how African Americans disproportionately in many large cities make up a disproportionate amount of people who are dying. He didn't talk about the fact that you have now 4.5 million African Americans who are unemployed. 4.5 million unemployed in 6 weeks. At the time he made the statement, it was probably maybe about 3.5 million. Okay? He didn't talk about the fact that you have less African Americans with health care now than when President Obama left office, because Donald Trump's Attorney General, William Barr, is in court right now trying to repeal the entire Affordable Health Care Act. He didn't talk about how Trump has reversed almost 200 policies that the Obama administration had in place. Largely, these policies were beneficial to African Americans. The reversal of them is detrimental. He didn't mention any policies, nothing like that. So the whole argument, I just find it very, very interesting. Disturbing and interesting at the same time. If you go back and watch last week's broadcast, and it's on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, and we're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. How's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. We've got a jam-packed show for you tonight. Don't want to miss any of this. We have, I used to say, we have a lot of information to cover, not a lot of time to do it in, and we have one moment to lose, right? Okay. So, Roland Martin on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we share his broadcasts on our Facebook fan page each day, Monday through Friday. He deconstructed Diddy's argument, and everybody wants results and things like this, right? If you go back and watch the broadcast I did last week, in the last segment, it was about an hour and 15 minutes, I compared Mike Bloomberg's policies pertaining to the African American community to Bernie Sanders' policies to Joe Biden's policies. Okay? And I break this down, and we look at policies. We also look at, I also deal with history as well. Okay, and I give you a number of articles to reference dealing with history, dealing with law, dealing with the crime bill, all different types of things like this. Okay, so go watch that. So that came from, some of that information came from the extensive article that theroot.com did, and it was written by Michael Harriot. And what they did was they put together a policy matrix, and they got policy experts together. They put together a team of policy experts, legal scholars, and political pundits, all of whom were African American, to help devise a policy matrix. And I said, that's the first time I've ever seen anything like that done, right? So I cited some of the information they talked about in that document, and then dealt with a lot of history as well. At the time that this document came out, February 28th, 2020, Joe Biden did not have an African American platform or policies specifically targeting the African American community. Okay, and I checked his website because I looked at the websites of all the candidates. I checked his website in early March and it was not there. I checked again this past week after I did last Sunday's show, and it's been updated. There's an African American platform. There's also a Hispanic platform as well. Okay, so check that out. None of these are endorsements, but I'm dealing with information. Okay, so check that out at joebiden.com. All right, and we talked about this last week. We looked at the different policies and broke them down and how they would impact the African American community. Okay, so go back and watch last week's show. There was a good article from Dr. Christina M. Greer from thegrio.com. Maybe Diddy can afford not to vote for Biden. Black voters can't. This is from May 1st, 2020. Okay? And she said, now, Dr. Christina Greer, first of all, she's a very intelligent African-American woman. She's an associate professor at Fordham University. You see her a lot on MSNBC as a commentator on MSNBC. She's somebody who actually studies politics. Okay, just to make a distinction between her and Diddy. Okay, she's somebody who actually studies politics and understands politics. She's an associate professor at Fordham University. She's a political editor at the Griot. She's the author of Black Ethnics, Race, Immigration, and the Pursuit of the American Dream. And she's the co-host of the podcast FAQ NYC. You see her a lot on MSNBC. Okay. And she said, I'm still reeling. Where is this? Hold on, let me scroll back up. Just a second here. She said, I'm still reeling over the recent comments made by Sean Diddy Combs. Quote, the black vote is not going to be for free, end quote, Diddy said on Naomi Campbell's web series, No Filter with Naomi. Quote, we want to know very clearly, just like Trump made it clear that he wanted to build a wall. There's only been maybe about a mile or two of that wall built that's like new. Okay? Just so we understand. Biden needs to make it clear that he's going to change the lives and quality of life for black and brown people. He added, or else he can't get the vote. I will hold the vote hostage if I have to, end quote. Really? I can tell Diddy has not read anybody's policies. One, this is irresponsible. I can tell Diddy has not read anybody's policies, because if he understood how Trump has reversed about 200 policies from the Obama administration, including weakening the Affordable Health Care Act, including reversing initiatives when it comes to criminal justice reform, like, let's say, for instance, dealing with privatized prisons, because the Obama administration, August of 2016, stated that they were not going to renew federal contracts for privatized prisons, and Trump has reversed this. In the 2013 initiative, Smart on Crime, that was put in place by Attorney General Eric Holder, was reversed by Trump's Attorney General, his first Attorney General, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, which backed off of charging low-level nonviolent drug offenders with the longest, harshest sentences. Okay? So, Christian, I know we're out of time here on 910 AM, the Superstation. Keep watching on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. My YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. People watch on social media. Stand by. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. Also, you can donate to the African History Network through Cash App, $ the AHN Show, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, or PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN Show. Right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next week. Peace. Okay, so we're still here on my social media platforms. You only do 2 hours on 910 AM, the Superstation, WFDF. And also remember, all these broadcasts, we have them in audio podcast format also. Okay, they're in audio podcast format also. Visit AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, And right on the homepage, click on Listen to Podcasts. And wherever you get your audio podcast from, search for the African History Network show. We're on iTunes, CastBox, Acast, FM Player, TuneIn. We're on a number of different social media platforms. Okay, so she said that Dr. Christina Greer said, I agree with with Diddy. Joe Biden and the Democrats cannot take the black vote for granted. However, Diddy then went on to state that he will, quote, hold the vote hostage if he had to, end quote. Sir, what does that even mean? How will you hold the vote hostage? How will you hold the black vote hostage when you encourage black people not to vote? She said, I shudder to think that is your strategy. If it is, let me count just some of the ways that would be detrimental not only to the black community, but the nation and world for generations to come. Okay? And let me see here. Let me bring this. All right. So let's go back to this article. This is entitled, this is from thegrio.com. Maybe Diddy can afford not to vote for Biden. Black voters can't. Maybe Diddy can afford not to vote for Biden. Black voters can't. This is from May 1st, 2020. Dr. Christina M. Greer, who is the political editor for thegrio.com. She is an associate professor at Fordham University, PhD, and political editor at thegrio.com as well. And you see her a lot on MSNBC. Okay, so also go back and watch the broadcast that I did last Sunday. That was the April 26th show, because I broke down Bernie Sanders' policies compared to Joe Biden's policies in the African American community, and we looked at the policy matrix that the Root.com laid out. They put together a team of policy experts, legal scholars, and political pundits, all who are African American, to put together a 10-point policy matrix to evaluate the platforms of the Democratic candidates pertaining to the African American community. We know Joe Biden got a score of 72 out of 100. Bernie Sanders got a 50 out of 100. Mike Bloomberg got a 40, I think it was a 43 out of 100, and Elizabeth Warren got a 72 out of 100. So go go watch the show from last Sunday. It's on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, and it's in audio podcast format. Go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, click on Listen to Podcasts. You can also read the article from TheRoot.com, Every Democratic Candidate's Black Agenda Ranked. Every Democratic Candidate's Black Agenda Ranked. That came out February 28, 2020. Since then, I think sometime in April, as I stated was going to happen when I originally did the broadcast March 10th and talked about this ranking. As campaigns go on, the candidates flesh out their campaign, add more details, add more policies, etc. So sometime in April, Joe Biden added a African American platform to his website, as well he has one for the Hispanic community and one for the Asian American Pacific Islander community as well. So go check that out at joebiden.com. All right. So Dr. Christina Greer said the black vote is not going to be free, Diddy said on Naomi Campbell's web series, No Filter with Naomi. We want to know Diddy said we want to know very clearly, just like Trump made it clear that he wanted to build a wall, Biden needs to make it clear that he's going to change the lives and quality of life of black people, brown people. He added, or else he can't get the vote. I will hold the vote hostage if I have to. Now, I don't know how he's going to hold the vote hostage. There's a better chance we may hold his ass hostage. Okay, not literally, but figuratively. Or maybe literally, we'll see. But not literally, but figuratively. But I doubt if Diddy has actually read Biden's policies. And I doubt if Diddy has actually studied the close to 200 policies from the Obama administration that Trump has reversed, as I talked about in part one of this broadcast. Okay. So Dr. Christina Greer said, I agree with Diddy. Joe Biden and the Democrats cannot take the black vote for granted. However, Diddy then went on to state that he would, quote, hold the vote hostage if I have to, end quote. She says, sir, what does that even mean? How will you hold the vote hostage? Will you encourage African Americans not to vote? I shudder to think that is your strategy. If it is, let me count just some of the ways that would be detrimental to not only the African American community, but the nation and world for generations to come. Also, it seems like Diddy doesn't understand the difference between federal law, state law, and local. State and local have a lot to do with this, but they depend on the federal government. And in his little comments, I noticed he mentioned the 26 million plus jobs lost in 5 weeks at the time he made those comments. About 3 million jobs lost by African Americans. He didn't talk about how less African Americans have health care today than when President Obama left office. How Trump has reversed the initiatives dealing with criminal justice reform that the Obama administration put in place. All these things he just didn't dealing with policy. Okay? Now, I don't know, maybe it's because he used to be friends with Donald Trump until Diddy got caught with that gun that Shine took the rap for. Because if you go back and look at comments that Donald Trump made when Diddy got caught with the gun and J-Lo was in the limo and all that stuff, Donald Trump act like he didn't know Diddy. Before then, Trump was talking like he and Diddy were friends. Because there are pictures of them together. When that happened, Trump distanced himself with Diddy, act like he really didn't know him. Oh, I see him every now and then, we say hi, things like that. This is what happened. Okay. So, Dr. Christina Greer, who's an African-American woman, by the way, if you're not familiar with it, she said, first, black women are the canaries in the mine, or canaries in the coal mine. The reason why black women are so active, participatory, and knowledgeable about politics is because what happens in our homes and communities often has rippling effects for the larger economy, criminal justice system, education system, and more. Encouraging African Americans to abstain from what is possibly the most important election of our lifetime is not only selfish, it's incredibly short-sighted. But Diddy is largely insulated. He's damn near a billionaire, so he's largely insulated from the effects of what's going on right now. He probably benefited from Donald Trump's $1.4 trillion tax cut, which hurt a lot of everyday African Americans. A lot of us thought we were going to get a tax refund like we normally do, and didn't get a tax refund, ended up owing money. The Donald Trump's $1.4 trillion tax cut, which added about close to $2 trillion to the national debt. 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%. She said, as we know, African American women make pennies on the dollar compared to their white counterparts. Actually, 61 cents on the dollar for every $1 that the average white male makes. The average African American woman makes 61 cents on the dollar for every $1 that the average white male makes. And that's what Black Women's Equal Pay Day is all about. Now, a few years ago, it was 67 cents on the dollar. Now, 61 cents on the dollar. But in the state of Louisiana, it's 47 cents on the dollar. So this is why raising the federal minimum wage from $7 to 25 cents an hour to $15 an hour would be so beneficial for African Americans, especially African American women. African Americans in general, men and women. But especially African American women, because African American men make about 79 cents on the dollar that every white male makes. African American women on average 61 cents. Read this article from blackenterprise.com. We talked about this last week. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. This is from blackenterprise.com, October 17, 2019. Now, this is not I want to make this clear, this is not a black man versus white, this is not a black man versus black woman issue. This is not what this is. But African American women, in many ways, are more vulnerable. A black woman will lose out on $946,120 over a 40-year career if she continues to make 61 cents on the dollar that every white male earns due to the wage gap, analysis by the National Women's Law Center shows. Quote, assuming she and her white non-Hispanic male counterpart began work at age 20 an African American woman would have to work until she is age 86 years old to catch up to what a white non-Hispanic man has been paid by age 60. The average African American woman will have to work till age 86 to make the same amount of money that the average white male makes by age 60. It takes the average African American woman 20 months to make the same amount of money that the average white male makes in 12 months. This is what Black Women's Equal Pay Day is all about, closing that racial wage gap. Okay, read the rest of this article here. And then it goes, because it talks about the $15 an hour, because that bill passed the U.S. House of Representatives. Democrats passed that bill in the U.S. House of Representatives July 2019. It's being blocked in the U.S. Senate by Moscow Mitch McConnell and Republicans. I wonder why. Also, the Paycheck Fairness Act would help close that racial wage gap as well. Okay. And then they talk about how African American women with doctorate degrees, advanced education among African American women has not been shown to lower the wage gap. In fact, the gap is largest for the most educated Black women. Doctorate degree holders who are Black women tend to make 60% of what their white male counterparts make. Quote, Black women have the highest student loan debt of any racial or ethnic group. For an undergraduate degree, the average Black woman carries nearly $30,400 in debt compared to $19,500 for white men. The wage gap lessens Black women's ability to pay off educational debt, creating an additional barrier to saving money that could be used to buy a home, start a business, or be used for emergencies. So when Joe Biden adopts it was either Elizabeth Warren or I think Bernie Sanders policy, a version of that, for giving up to $100,000 in student loan debt, that disproportionately benefits African Americans, especially African American women, because they tend to have higher student loan debt. African American men have student loan debt also. So this is understanding how policies impact us. And then when we look at the reversals in policies that Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos has made dealing with student loan debt, especially student loan debt dealing with predatory colleges, because there were policies put in place by the Obama administration dealing with student loan forgiveness for people who got stuck with student loan debts from predatory colleges that disproportionately impacts African Americans and Hispanics. Because we went to a lot of these colleges, we saw the commercials, we wanted to better ourselves, we take out the student loans, go through the programs, we don't get placed in a job that has anything to do with our degree, we're stuck with the student loan debt. So Betsy DeVos really stalled on following these policies put in place by the Obama administration that was with student loan forgiveness. And also we know the Obama administration shut down a lot of these predatory colleges like ITT Tech and Corinthian College, which disproportionately targeted African Americans and Hispanics. This is, you see, a lot of people don't understand really what these different departments do. Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, Department of Justice, Environmental Protection Agency. All these entities impact every aspect of our lives. Okay, so read that from blackenterprise.com. Black women lose out over $1 million in their career thanks to the wage gap. That impacts African American men also. Because we in general marry African American women. There are mothers, there are sisters, there are wives, there are girlfriends. That impacts us. But also, the wage gap impacts African American men as well. We make about 79%, maybe 80%, but I think it's about 79%. 79 cents on every dollar that the average white male makes. Okay, so let's continue here. Let's go back to the article from thegrio.com. How's everybody doing? On Facebook and YouTube also. All right, we're back on YouTube as well. Got Ronald. Yeah, this is part 2 of the show, Ronald. All right. Zoom froze up on me for some reason, so then I had to do part 2, do a second broadcast. Okay, so Dr. Christina Greer said encouraging black people to abstain from what is possibly the most important election of our lifetime is not only selfish, it's incredibly short-sighted. This will be the most important election of most of our lifetimes up until now. She said, as we know, black women make pennies on the dollar compared to their white counterparts, while this president and his Republican sycophants are eroding the economic security of millions of people by breaking up unions, failing to pay people of color an equal living wage, defunding educational systems, bankrupting families in unequal hospital systems, because funding for hospitals has a lot to do with legislation, has a lot to do with government. And destroying the social safety net, we cannot make a false equivalent argument about the two parties. How do you plan to hold the vote hostage when the Republican Party is already doing everything in its power to prevent black people from voting in free and fair elections? Just look at the 2018 Georgia gubernatorial race, where rampant voter disenfranchisement was so widespread, even Republicans could not believe what they were seeing. That's the election that Governor Brian Kemp, Secretary of State Brian Kemp, stole from Stacey Abrams. That genius Brian Kemp, who just a few weeks ago said he just found out that you could be asymptomatic and infect somebody with coronavirus. And the headquarters of the Center for Disease Control is down the street from his office. And he said he just found out. He said it was a game changer. He said, I just found out in the last 24 hours. I didn't know that. So the same thing happened in Florida, where ballots were found in school closets days after the election. And lest we forget, just a few weeks ago when Wisconsin closed roughly 175 polling stations and reduced the voters in the Milwaukee area to exercise their right to vote in just 5 polling stations. We have enough hostages in our electoral system. Of course, the Democratic Party needs to be more responsive to the specific and diverse needs of African Americans. However, if you do not participate, you lose leverage during decision-making time. Yeah, and see, what I find interesting when people say stupid stuff like this, stupid ass nonsense like this, that Diddy saying, right? They don't talk about the damage that Trump has done in the past 3 years with his policies to the African Americans. In part 1 of the broadcast, I talked about like his 35-day partial government shutdown. People really have not. I did a broadcast dealing with how that was detrimental to African Americans, African American farmers, people being laid off from work, federal employees being laid off from work, or you not getting paid and still have to go to work. That means you got to pay for gas, you have to pay for child care. There's some people still haven't recovered from that. And this right here that's taking place with coronavirus and how it's shutting down African American owned businesses, many of our businesses are not going to survive this. See, if you watch MSNBC, Stephanie Rule is the senior business correspondent. She's talking about how we have not seen the real fallout from this, because on the back end of this are going to be massive bankruptcies. And very few people are talking about the massive bankruptcies that are going to happen. The evictions, the foreclosures, and the bankruptcies that are going to take place on the back end. And they're going to be disproportionately African Americans who are going to have to file for bankruptcy, who are going to be evicted and face foreclosure. So she said, if you support policies of Bernie Sanders and are distraught your candidate failed to secure anything close to a nomination, know that Joe Biden's policies are more closely aligned to Bernie Sanders than Donald Trump will ever be. That's true. If you study Donald Trump's policies, you study what this jackass has been doing, that's absolutely true. no matter what the president says in a soundbite. It takes a particularly privileged position to abstain from the voting process. Maybe one can afford to do so in Diddy's economic bracket, but most people cannot. Far too many African Americans cannot afford a missed paycheck, let alone a missed election. The president is relying on sowing just enough seeds of dissension to either convince African American, especially male voters, to cast a vote for him or convince African American voters to sit out of this election. This is what I said last week and the week before and the week before that. When Donald Trump asked African Americans in 2016, what the hell do you have to lose? The correct answer was everything. When he asked black people, what the hell do you have to lose? The correct answer was everything. Your health insurance, your job, your house, your life. The correct answer was everything. She said, here's what another 4 years of a Trump administration looks like. We haven't even talked about 250 federal judges confirmed from Donald Trump. Many of them anti-civil rights. Many of them anti-affirmative action. Donald Trump has nominated 1/4 of the federal judges. These are lifetime appointments. Because since white people have a negative birth rate in 26 states out of 50, that's not me. That's the U.S. Census Bureau, June 2018, the memo the U.S. Census Bureau put out. And it talked about how 2 years prior to that, it was 17 states out of 50. Now it's 26 states out of 50. New York Times has an article dealing with this as well. Dealing with, let me see, let's pull this up here. Let's see. New York Times has one, and it's citing the Census Bureau. Fewer births than deaths. Fewer births than deaths among whites in majority of U.S. states. There were a number of articles that reported on this when the press release came out from the U.S. Census Bureau. I've talked about this a number of times. June 20th, 2018. Deaths now outnumber births among white people in more than half the states in the country. Demographers have found, signaling what could be a faster than expected transition to a future in which whites are no longer a majority of the American population. The Census Bureau has projected that whites could drop below 50% of the population around the year 2045, a relatively slow-moving change that has been years in the making. But a new report this week found, so when they say this week, they're talking about June 2018. A new report this week found that whites are dying faster than they are being born now in 26 states, up from 17 states just 2 years earlier, and demographers say that shift might come even sooner. And one of the things they attribute this to is the opioid crisis, okay? So they're saying that white people have a negative birth rate in 26 states out of 50. What's taking place, so the fear is that by, some white people have this fear, all of them don't have this fear, but some white people do have this fear, that by the year 2045, that white people will no longer be the majority population in this country. So you have some white people who are fearing this. What's taking place with the Republican Party, what's taking place with a lot of conservatives, is being that they see that they are going to lose the population fight, being that they see they're going to lose that, their goal is to maintain control of the federal courts for the next 25, 30, 35 years. So what happened was, when in the last 2 years of the Obama administration, when Democrats lost the U.S. Senate in 2014, what that did was they couldn't get President Obama's federal judge nominations confirmed. Moscow Mitch McConnell becomes Senate Majority Leader because Republicans are in control of the Senate like they are now. So the last 2 years of the Obama administration, Mitch McConnell and Republicans blocked President Obama's nominations to the federal bench. About 2 months ago, Mitch McConnell was on Fox News interviewed by Sean Hannity, bragging about blocking President Obama's nominations to the federal bench. There were 103 federal bench nominations that were vacant when Trump became president. So the number one goal that the Republicans have had, led by Moscow Mitch McConnell in the Senate, is to confirm as many ultra-conservative, young, largely male, white male judges to these lifetime appointments. This is because they want to gain control of the courts. Then also as many U.S. Supreme Court nominations as they can as well. Read this entire article. This is they're playing the long game, okay? But you need the presidency, and you have to maintain control of the U.S. Senate to be able to do this. They're playing the long game. In 2016, I saw dozens of interviews with Donald Trump supporters, and Republicans in general, but also Donald Trump supporters. All Republicans in 2016 were not Donald Trump supporters. Some of them voted for Donald Trump as a last resort. The reason why is they were following an agenda. Republicans said this is about the courts. They said this is about the Supreme Court nominations. This is about the federal courts. They said this is about the courts. So they saw Trump as a tool to bring about, to fulfill their agenda, to control the federal courts. Okay, so read this article here from New York Times. And let's see here. Let's go to this broadcast. Where are we broadcasting? All right. Yeah, so read this one from the New York Times. But see, this all deals with understanding politics, understanding strategy. Okay, average person don't understand none of this stuff. Because I see a lot of the comments people make on social media. A lot of people explain this to our people because they don't know it, because they don't study politics. I do. I'm not just a historian, I study politics as well. All right. This is grandmaster level chess. Many of our people are playing beginner's checkers and don't even understand all the rules to checkers. This is grandmaster level chess. That's what this is. All right, and then read the article. Let's see, YahooNews.com had the article dealing with Moscow Mitch McConnell when he was on Sean Hannity's show. Mitch McConnell brags about blocking Obama for 2 years, then laughs about it. December 13th, 2019. Mitch McConnell brags about blocking Obama for 2 years, then laughs about it. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, who's up for re-election and needs to be voted out of office, on Thursday night bragged about blocking President Barack Obama's attempt to fill federal judicial vacancies for 2 years. Then he laughed about it as he discussed the Republican Party's effort to stack the courts with conservative judges under Donald Trump. See, this is how elections have consequences. So most of the people told you don't vote in 2016. We just gonna build 5-story buildings and do economic empowerment, invest in the stock market. They ain't saying anything about federal judges. They ain't talking about what was at stake. They didn't tell you federal judges is a lifetime appointment. And this is federal judges in the federal appeals court. They didn't talk about the U.S. Supreme Court is at stake, how many federal judgeships, how many vacancies there were to be filled at the federal benches, federal judgeships. Let's see. We've got. Let's see if we can play this clip here. We've got time.
Let's talk about the issue has come up. Let's say somebody were to retire at the end of this year, leading into the summer. You have been very clear, if the president appointed somebody, you would follow through on that nomination.
Absolutely. We definitely would do that. And this paperback that we were just talking about, the president's foreword is about judges. My afterword catches up what's happened during the Trump administration on judges, because my memoir came out 3 years ago, before the president was elected. What we've done here, the president and I together with this paperback that you've shown on the screen, is to talk about how the Judge Project came about, how it went forward. If you will recall, Sean, the most important decision I've made in my entire political career was not to fill the Supreme Court vacancy when Justice Scalia passed away. That was the beginning, and now we've got an exclamation point here after 3 years that we thought the public would be interested in reading about, and that's why the president and I collaborated on this paperback.
I was shocked that former President Obama left so many vacancies and didn't try to fill those positions.
I'll tell you why. I was in charge of the of what we did the last 2 years of the Obama administration.
I will give you full credit for that. And by the way, take a bow. All right, that was a good line.
Okay, so here is now. See, the average person doesn't understand this. People told you don't vote 2016. They probably ain't explained none of this to you. Here is Moscow Mitch McConnell on Fox News talking to Sean Hannity, bragging about blocking President Obama's nominations to the federal bench in the last 2 years because that has to be confirmed by the Senate, and Republicans control the Senate so they could block his nominations. And then Trump gets in office. There are at least 103 vacancies. And Mitch McConnell's #1 goal is to confirm as many ultra-conservative, young white male federal judges as possible. That's what he wants his legacy to be. Okay? All right. So read this article here from YahooNews.com. Mitch McConnell brags about blocking Obama for 2 years, then laughs about it. I wonder if Diddy's going to educate the people on this. I doubt it. This is from December 2019. Okay, let's continue here. Let's go back to Dr. Christina Greer, who's somebody who actually studies politics. Okay, she said, here's what another 4 years. Okay, she broke down what another 4 years of Trump. That's like the Cliff Notes edition. She said it will also lead to defunding HBCUs and other educational institutions, defunding public schools in cities, a continuation of harsh immigration and deportation policies that will disproportionately affect Afro-Caribbean and African families. Because I notice when I hear African Americans talk about immigration and undocumented immigrants, things like that, they usually don't talk about black immigrants and black undocumented immigrants, because the black undocumented immigrants are the first ones to be deported. You notice how they just leave that out? They don't talk, they don't talk about Haitians, Jamaicans, those from Trinidad, Barbados, from the African nations, things like that. It's just totally just miss that for some reason. I can't figure out why. They just usually just totally miss that. So she said Afro-Cuban and African families, appointing judges who will criminalize poverty and calcify the school to prison pipeline. The list goes on and on. She said it is beyond irresponsible to make a false equivalency and even hint at suggesting African Americans withhold their vote. American institutions are specifically designed for gradual change. A Biden presidency won't bring rapid change overnight. That is not the intentional design of American democracy. Not only that, a lot of this has to do with state legislatures, governors, state legislatures, and at your city level, mayor, city council. A lot of people just put all the onus on the president, and that's not how this works. Now, if you don't study politics, then you just believe that. This is why in 2010, I heard a lot of black people saying, "Oh, we're not going to vote in 2010 midterm elections. We're not going to vote for Congress or anything. We voted for President Obama. That was it." You ever read the U.S. Constitution? You understand the powers of Congress based upon Article 1? You understand Congress controls the purse strings? I mean, the White House sends the annual federal budget to Congress to confirm the annual federal budget. I mean, our condition would be a lot better if we just read. Like if we read like the U.S. Constitution, a lot of this stuff we would understand a whole lot better, and our actions will fall in line better with our level of understanding. Because the Constitution lays all this stuff out. We just haven't read it. Donald Trump hasn't read it either. He just found out about the powers of the states, the 10th Amendment, like 3 weeks ago. Go to loc.gov, Library of Congress website. Read the U.S. Constitution. You get this book here. I think this is still like $2. The Declaration of Independence and other great documents of American history, especially focused on the U.S. Constitution. Because Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution tells you that the U.S. Constitution, all of the previous treaties and all of the subsequent treaties are the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is the foundation of all of this. She said, however, we do know Biden will surround himself with individuals who actually do know a thing or two about policy. We do know Biden is not interested in a kleptocracy like the current resident at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Because the Little Rascals and the Three Stooges are running the government. Little Rascal and the Three Stooges. Jared Kushner is alfalfa. Ivanka Trump is Darla. Donald Trump is Spanky. Mike Pence is, which one's Mike Pence? He's Larry. Donald Trump is Spanky. Mike Pence is probably Larry. And Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, he's Curly. So it's like the Three Stooges and the Little Rascals are running the government. She said, we do know Biden believes in science, climate change, listening to experts, and moving to the left on policy when confronted. Because with the whole debacle and mishandling of coronavirus, this pandemic, this is what happens when you have a president who declares war on the scientists, who doesn't read his presidential daily briefing. Because as I said in part 1, there were numerous warnings in the presidential daily briefing going back to January and February about coronavirus. Donald Trump missed that. You have to have a president who is going to properly handle the economy. Because it was President Obama who saved the economy and handed a largely healthy economy to Trump. There were problems with the economy, but it was a much healthier economy than the one he got from Bush. 22 million jobs, 15.1 million jobs created during the Obama administration. 2.95 million went to African Americans. Since the recovery starting in 2010, 22 million jobs created. 30 million been lost in 6 weeks under the unstable genius. She said, so let's continue here. She went on to wrap up and say, black people cannot afford to sit out and see the 45th president reelected so he can further erode decency, our economy, truth, and all of the struggles of our parents and ancestors. Not only that, if you think Trump is unhinged right now, you don't want to see what happens if he gets reelected. He doesn't have to worry about a third term. Now, if you damn near a billionaire, you're insulated from all that. He intends to do it, and he is banking on a percentage of African Americans ignoring the facts and sitting out this important election. She said Diddy is known to wear his trademark t-shirt, vote or die, and in the era of COVID-19 and the systemic racism and mismanagement of this president and his entire administration, that statement couldn't be more true. Yeah, because this next election is literally about vote or die. This election right here is literally about vote or die. Because we see what happens when you don't vote. And this is why there was rampant voter suppression. Republicans targeted African Americans with a voter suppression campaign. It was African Americans, Hispanics, college students, but especially African Americans. That's historical. And this goes back to I hate to bring this up. This goes back to Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act being gutted by the U.S. Supreme Court case Shelby County versus Holder 2013, which was backlash to a record number of African Americans voting in the 2012 presidential election. 67.6% of African Americans registered to vote voted in the 2012 election. President Obama was on the ballot. They scared the hell out of Republicans. They came back in 2013 with the backlash. We didn't see the backlash. We don't understand political self-defense. Understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans, understanding how to see trends, how to protect yourself from trends, how to protect gains that have been made. How do you protect gains that were made if you're under the misconception that no gains were made? 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case Shelby County versus Holder guts Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that most people don't understand. When it was gutted, it was cheered by then Senator from Alabama, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, who went on to become Donald Trump's first Attorney General. And the 2016 presidential election was the first election in 50 years, presidential election in 50 years, that you did not have the full weight, the full power of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Therefore, there were 868 fewer polling places in 2016. 868 fewer polling places in 2016. How do we know? Read the article from Ari Berman from thenation.com, who wrote a series of articles for The Nation dealing with voter suppression and things like this leading up to the 2016 election. Because I reported on this real time while it was happening. And he talked about how because of the U.S. Supreme Court case Shelby County versus Holder, he wrote an article. There are 868 fewer places to vote in 2016 because the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act. This is from November 4th, 2016. Okay, this ties into what's going on today, and there's 1,700 fewer polling places. There's 1,700 fewer polling places. This tied into some of the voter suppression we saw during the 2020 primaries in Texas, when we saw a lot of long lines of people voting in Texas and how African Americans and Hispanics were disproportionately impacted by that. Part of that ties into the 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case. Okay, so this deals with understanding history and law, court cases, things like this. All of this impacts us. Let's post this article here. This is from The Nation. All right, just a minute here. So we're going to wrap up this article here. I think there's one paragraph left. I'm going to post this here on YouTube. Okay. All right, and I've said before. If you watch my broadcast, I said before, whoever wins, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, and I don't belong to the Democratic Party, Republican Party, but I study policy, and I study whose policies are most beneficial for African Americans. Now, most people don't study policy; they just repeat nonsense they hear in YouTube videos, in documentaries, nonsense like that. I study policies. So, when you vote for a candidate, it doesn't mean you agree with everything a candidate has said in the past, or every vote they've taken, or every policy they've supported. You're voting it's not based upon the political party, it's based upon the policies. It's not about the political party, it's not about the personality, it's about the policies. That's what's most important. All right, let's go back to this article from Dr. Christina Greer. So she said African Americans cannot afford to sit out and see the 45th president reelected so he can further erode decency, our economy, truth, and all of the struggles of our parents and ancestors. He intends to do it, and he is banking on a percentage of African Americans ignoring the facts and sitting out this important election. The Trump administration has also been gutting the civil rights departments at the Department of Justice, Department of Education, the Environmental Protection Agency, all across the board. There's civil rights departments all across the board. They have been reducing the amount of staff in to reduce the amount of work that these civil rights departments can do also. Diddy is known to wear his trademark vote or die, and in the era of COVID and systemic racism and mismanagement of this president and his entire administration, that statement couldn't be more true. Maybe Diddy should tell his boy Trump to cut it all out and stop it. Maybe Trump will listen to him. I don't know. Just a thought. All right, so check this out here from thegrio.com. We'll post the link here for this one also. All right. Remember back in the day when a lot of African American hip hop artists were talking about Donald Trump in their music and their songs and things like this? All right, then I found the article from blackenterprise.com. NAACP President Derrick Johnson demands federal government do more to help black businesses. All right. Also, once again, be sure and go back and watch the, actually I'm going to post a link here. What was that, April 26th show? When I broke down the policies of Bernie Sanders compared them to Joe Biden. And Biden has expanded his policy. We have to study the policy. Read all the policies on his website. He's added an African American platform. He's added a Hispanic platform. He's added an Asian American Pacific Islander platform. Read the entire platform. Because those policies, even ones that don't say black or African American, they will largely impact African Americans also. We don't study policy and understand how this impacts us. Okay, so according NAACP President Derrick Johnson wants to ensure that provisions focusing on small and minority businesses are included in the coronavirus relief packages. This is from April 29th from blackenterprise.com. According to BET, Derrick Johnson did not mince words when speaking on the virus's impact on African Americans. He said, quote, "The current public health crisis has exposed the weakness of the policy reality for African Americans in all areas, including health, economic groundability, and lack of access to multiple critical needs." Derrick Johnson said, quote, "I equate what's taking place now to what happened during Hurricane Katrina," end quote. African Americans are in a tough position during the pandemic. They're more likely to work low wage positions and less likely to what is this here? Less likely to be able to telecommute. Additionally, due to decades of inadequate health care and nutrition, African Americans are more likely to have pre-existing conditions that are complicated by the coronavirus. Okay, diabetes, asthma, high blood pressure, hypertension, obesity, bronchitis, lupus, all the, things like that. Derrick Johnson believes the federal government is almost refusing to help African American businesses. Derrick Johnson believes the federal government is almost refusing to help African American businesses. However, in doing so, they're leaving millions on the table. African Americans are the fastest growing community to create new businesses over the last decade, especially African American women. Quote, "The response in the stimulus package that have been passed to date has created a vacuum for those same businesses because the banks have been given the latitude to cherry pick their large customers over smaller customers," end quote, Derrick Johnson told BET. Johnson added that the NAACP has been working with Bankers Association and minority financial institutions such as Carver Bank and One United Bank to help African American business owners. The NAACP does a lot more than people really actually think they do. If you go to NAACP.org, the national website, you sign up for the email newsletter, things like that. The NAACP does a lot more, far more than what the average person actually thinks that they do. You can read reporting from Black Press USA. Black Press USA is on Facebook. I follow them on Facebook because they have a lot of articles pertaining to the African American community, our organizations, things like this. There are a lot of things that our organizations do that you don't see talked about on MSNBC or CNN. Joy Ann Reid may talk about it on the weekend. Reverend Al Sharpton may talk about it on the weekend on MSNBC, but like largely during the week, a lot of that stuff is not covered. Okay? So this is why African American media is so important. Okay, so Derek Johnson added that the NAACP has been working with the Black Bankers Association and minority financial institutions such as Carver Bank. These are African American owned banks. Carver Bank and One United Bank to help African American business owners. The NAACP is also pushing for a complete discharge of student loans for those who serve the public interest, those who work for government or nonprofit organizations, and those in the medical profession. African Americans are getting some help from their own during the pandemic. Jay-Z said, and then also we know P. Diddy and other African American celebrities have either donated or fundraised to help African Americans through the pandemic. Okay, there was an article from ShopBlack.com, and I'm going to see if I can pull this up quickly here because this is freezing up on me. Let me see here. There was a fund that Diddy set up, and I know we're in overtime. I mean, this is just a fraction of the content I have for tonight's show, so I'm cutting it short. Believe me, I'm really cutting this short because this is like a lot. I've been busy during the week, haven't been able to do broadcasts, so I have a lot of content. Let's see here. ShopBlack.us, SHOPPE, ShopBlack.us. Had this article. Let me try to find it here. Okay, Diddy partners with black-owned banks to help black businesses access funding. I posted about this on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. This is before those stupid-ass comments he made to Naomi Campbell. So, because I had this in the notes to talk about tonight, because just something positive. This is from April 27th, 2020. Diddy partners with black-owned banks to help black businesses access funding. Diddy has launched OurFairShare.com, OurFairShare, OurFairShare.com, which is a platform built to help minority entrepreneurs and small businesses access much needed capital amid the economic devastation brought by COVID-19. The initial round of Paycheck Protection Program PPP dollars disproportionately went to those with the right connections rather than the greatest needs. Our Fair Share will help minority-owned companies learn about the Paycheck Protection Program and get connected to approved Small Business Administration SBA lenders that can process applications for these potential business saving quote, COVID-19 is devastating our communities, and without access to stimulus funding, we risk losing critical businesses that create jobs and help build opportunities and wealth in our communities, end quote, said Sean P. Diddy Combs. Quote, I created Our Fair Share to help entrepreneurs play on an even playing field and chance to survive with the hope to thrive, end quote, he said. Combs further announced a partnership with the National Bankers Association, the trade group representing minority-owned financial institutions, to connect minority-owned banks and financial technology companies to the OurFairShare platform and enable these banks to originate Paycheck Protection Program loans from applications that utilize the site. OurFairShare is designed to help ensure diverse small businesses, independent contractors, and nonprofit organizations is designed to help ensure these different entities understand that they are eligible and how to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program loans. This provides clear information about the requirements for a successful application. The applications are connected to approved PPP lenders. The lead institutions are the Harbor Bank of Maryland, based in Baltimore, Maryland; Liberty Bank and Trust, based in New Orleans, Louisiana; Carver State Bank, based in Savannah, Georgia; and Lendistry, an online small business lender based in Los Angeles, California. Now, I'm not sure about Lendistry, but all the other ones, those are African American owned banks. Now, Sean Combs also shared a longer term vision for OurFairShare as a connector for entrepreneurs searching for capital and capital providers. The platform will be dedicated to getting funding into the hands of the entrepreneurs that need it and will evolve the needs of the minority small business community. Kenneth Kelly is chairman of the National Bankers Association. Kenneth Kelly said, quote, "It is inspiring to see a cultural icon like Sean Combs partnering with minority banks and others to ensure economic opportunity for minorities in this program." So our leaders in economics, politics, and culture must unite because the COVID-19 healthcare and economic impacts on our communities are interrelated. We can help our community weather this storm if we work together, Kelly, chairman of the National Bankers Association, said. Okay, so on Tuesday, Tuesday before last, the U.S. Senate passed a $484 billion bill, the new pandemic relief to the Paycheck Protection Program, small business program, pay for coronavirus testing and help hospitals that have been hit hard by sick patients. The people of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, that's the CARES Act. Okay, that's what CARES stands for. Coronavirus Aid and Economic Securities Act, which was the original $2 trillion stimulus package Congress approved on March 27th. Okay, you can read the rest of this. And let's see, let's go to this Diddy here.
Hello, this is Sean Diddy Combs, and welcome to OurFairShare. We created this platform to give small businesses access to the capital that they need to survive. It's well known that we don't get our fair share of venture capital in small business in normal times. But given the devastation of COVID-19, the pain that it has inflicted on your small businesses and on entrepreneurs, you cannot afford to get your fair share. And this stimulus money is available to barbershops, hair salons, clubs, clothing brands, restaurants, bars, bodegas, liquor stores, and retail stores, and anyone else that is self-employed. There are billions of dollars in this money our government is making available so your businesses can make it through these difficult times. So our team has worked hard to provide a lot of helpful information complete a successful application. So please, attention to all of the big financial institutions. We need some of that money too, okay? And if you're a financial institution and you care about economic equality, and you're trying to empower some entrepreneurs of color, contact Love, Our Fair Share.
Okay, so that was Diddy announcing the launch of OurFairShare.com. Okay, that also happened this past week. That happened before that other stupid ass nonsense happened. Okay, so I'm a fair person. He did something stupid. I talked about that. He did something good. I talked a lot of good articles here at shopblack.us. Shop with P's. I shared a Facebook fan page. You got a huge response. So we're going to post this link here also. Everybody check that. Sure to go back and watch from Joe Biden and how they will positively impact the African American community. And I also talk about the policies from Donald Trump and how they've been detrimental to the African American community. Okay? I'm not just a historian, I also study politics. All right. Hey, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Also, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show through PayPal, okay? Or at our site, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button. Right on the home page, and if you want to set up for recurring donation, you can. If you're not in a position to donate at this point in time, I totally understand it as well. Then also, the lectures are at our website, also AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have a lot of them in bundle packs also. Okay, so was Diddy talking about Our Fair Share?